Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Busy show today. Jets development camp continues. We'll have more on the hockey team's offseason with Scott Billeck and Murat coming up. And, of course, we got a big game tomorrow at IG Field for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Ed Tait from BlueBombers.com a little later on in hour two. We'll also get ready for the Fish to return home, opening up a big 9-game homestand starting Friday night as well. And Andrew Collier, GM of the Fish, is going to join us coming up a little bit later on in the program as well. So lots to get to, lots of good vibes continuing to emanate from the Scotiabank Hockey for All Center, the artist formerly known as the Iceplex, out on the west side of the city. Training camp or development camp continued today. A little bit of a shorter skate, a little more testing today, but still lots of smiles and lots of good times for fans that were out there this morning, getting a chance to rub shoulders, and many of the kids getting autographs with some of the future stars of the Winnipeg Jets. We've got a few things to get to. Don't forget, tonight, final BP Blue Jays viewing party tonight is over at the Birchwood location over on Portage Avenue out in St. James. Unfortunate rain out last night, but shout out to everyone that popped by BP Henderson for that. Celine, who joined us a couple days ago, she'll be out there at the BP tonight one more time. And as I say, double header tonight, so a 4 o'clock makeup game, and then a little after 7 o'clock, they'll get into game 2. And you know what? Well, I'll get Remis in here, but we should also mention we've got some details on our Goldeyes group night for Winnipeg Sports Talk. Everyone invited to come out and enjoy Goldeyes baseball with us coming up at the end of the month. We'll get to that in a minute. A very important signing for the Winnipeg Jets as well, and a couple Winnipeg Jets right now scheduled for arbitration. So we'll get to all of that. First up, though, we can't make this happen each and every day without the incredible sponsors that support Winnipeg Sports Talk, including Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Aquatech, Modern Man, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Vita Health, Wallace & Wallace, Nick and Nicky DQ Group, F Apparel, Princess Auto, Consolidated Supply, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Little Brown Jug, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, Assiniboia Downs, and our friends over at Breezy Bend Country Club. Let's get this show on the road and welcome in Michael Remis. What is up, Remo?
Feeling good, Huss. I agree. I'm feeling good. I'm seeing all the good vibes at Jets development camp, and it's spilling over to me. And we also got the Bomber game Friday against Calgary. That's exciting. You know, some great weather outside. So I think a lot of reasons to be positive here. I'm feeling good, Huss. Thanks. I was going to say thanks for having me, but
thanks for showing up and being part of the show that we do together every day, I guess. Thanks are in order. I expected you to be here.
It's just like a reflex, I guess. So yeah.
I am. I will tell you that I am definitely looking forward to this Bomber game tomorrow, and just looking ahead. We've got a 30% chance of showers tomorrow and a high of 22, so not quite the glorious weather they've been having. I guess, though, if it's sunny and 22, everyone will take that. It is absolutely gorgeous outside right now. I mean, literally a perfect 24 degrees. I don't know if you're watching this live on YouTube and you have the ability to maybe ditch the office earlier and hit the golf course. I'm not sure you could find a much better day to do that. But hey, maybe you just do a little twilight round, because it's still going to be very, very nice when you finish up work. And we got these long days right now. But let's get to it, Remo. We'll talk more about development camp. As I say, Murat and Scott have both been down there as well, so we'll talk about that. But I think the first and foremost thing we need to get to was the news that Dylan Samberg's got a new 2-year contract with the Winnipeg Jets for $1.4 million AAV. I will say this. I was a little surprised that, well, maybe not surprised, because I think it makes sense for Dylan Samberg to want a shorter deal. I think that he is poised to take big steps forward over the course of next season and the following season. And I think at the end of this deal, he will be arbitration eligible, but he'll still be an RFA. certainly, I think at that point, the Winnipeg Jets will be looking to sign him long-term. I don't blame him for betting on himself because I think the opportunity is going to be here for him to really establish himself as a top 4 defenseman. And at that point, the number will go way up. I had speculated or maybe wished from a team perspective that they might look at a longer-term deal right now for Dylan Samberg. And I did the comparables to Zach Whitecloud's deal with the Vegas Golden Knights, where he signed, I believe, a 6-year extension, just under $3 million a year. I kind of think there's some similarities from those players, U.S. college players, although Dylan Samberg was a second-round pick, as opposed to Zach Whitecloud, who was undrafted. But playing most of their first little while on the third pairings, but showing plenty of promise for the future. But from a Jets perspective, certainly, I mean, he will provide great value for this team for the next couple of years at $1.4 million, and he'll have the opportunity to earn a bigger money, longer-term deal over the course of the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, he's an RFA, and it did come out right before that deal was announced about players filing for arbitration. We can get to what that means in a second. It was Barron and Villardi filing for arbitration. Samberg didn't file, along with Stanley and Chisholm. Like, oh, why didn't these guys file? And it's like, oh, here's the contract. And, you and Brandon talked, I think it was a month ago or month and a half, saying exactly that. They should lock him up long-term, I think like $3 million for a while. Will that get it done? And you both acknowledged in that conversation, like Samberg probably wouldn't do it just because, look, they usually pay on past performance. And I mean, he had 8, they kind of go by points, even though he's not really a scorer. He had 8 points in 63 games. He was in and out of the lineup. He was the third pair D most of the time. So that's not a guy you're going to pay. You'll be like, hey, here's a ton of money when you have arbitration rates. So for him, you get a shorter term deal. You do get some security there, knowing you're making 1.4 AAV for the next 2 seasons. And then after those 2 years, the cap's going to go up. You think he's going to grow into a bigger role, as you go from a third pair D to a second pair D. And then after these 2 years, he'll probably be like, yeah, I'm probably worth, more than 1.4, maybe more than 3. And he'll sign. You hope the Jets could sign him, for a longer term deal. And, a nice move by the Jets. Second round pick, 43rd overall, 2017. And, you look at development camp now, and Samberg has spent a lot of time with the Moose, with the Jets organization. And Shane Malloy, you had on yesterday, great conversation. It's on our YouTube channel separately. And he mentions draft +5, and I guess he's on draft +6 here, as 2023 minus 2017 is 6 years. So I think that is one pick that is working out for the Jets.
Yeah, listen, he has been. I know the blue line, there were some ups and downs, and I already see people bitching about Neil Pionk somehow. We're 5 minutes into the show, and we haven't even mentioned his name, and that's where things are going. But Samberg has shown that I think he's got what it takes to play, and not just play effectively throughout the regular season, but I really think with his size, with his strength, as he continues to grow, get more experience and more comfortable playing, more minutes and against better competition, he's going to be a guy that you're going to really lean on come playoff time. We've talked about the trend of bigger defensemen come playoff time, and I know a lot of people love the Erik Karlssons and smaller defensemen that do wonderful things offensively. But there is something to be said for that strength, that brute that Samberg does have. And I think that Samberg, despite not having big numbers, Remis, does have the potential, and I'm sure he believes this, to put up bigger numbers over the course of the next season. And obviously that'll be good for him when it comes to negotiating a new contract. So he's sort of betting on himself right now. I mean, as they say, the next couple of years are going to be great value for the Winnipeg Jets, as normally happens on ELC or early contracts, while players are RFAs. And it's going to be up to Dylan Samberg to earn that bigger money, longer-term deal with the Winnipeg Jets. That being said, just glad that he is down, taken care of. We don't have to worry about his contract now. And it'll be on to the 2 players that did file for salary arbitration in Morgan Barron and, of course, Gabriel Villardi, who had his breakout season scoring 23 last year for the LA Kings.
Yeah, just quickly on Samberg. He played average 14.56 last year in 63 games, and when guys were out, he was called to go a bigger role. So I would expect that average time on ice to go up this season. And yeah, Barron, and so the players who didn't go for arbitration, Stanley, he's in and out of the lineup. Like, what are they gonna do? Chisholm? I mean, there's no reason for those guys to file. I think what did Gabe Villardi say last year? It's like, yeah, here's your contract, sign it. I think that's what he said. He said in his conference call. But for those guys, they played a bigger role, and filing for arbitration is just a formality. We go through this every year. It gives them a deadline. I don't anticipate they're going to get to arbitration at all, especially with a guy you just traded for. Like, you're going to trade for him and start fighting with him in court about how much money he's owed. I can't see them doing that. I remember Andrew Kopp, they took him to arbitration after there were multiple offseason disputes with Andrew Kopp about how they perceived his value each side. And I remember he was not happy after going. I think he was glad that he went through it, but was not happy. I don't think it's a positive experience for either party, especially more so the player, I think.
You can't go to arbitration with the guy you just traded for as the centerpiece of a massive deal involving one of your top two centers.
So they'll set a date, and that's the deadline, and they're not going to go to arbitration, but it's just a formality to move it along. I'm curious about Morgan Barron. What did he make? I'm looking at what he made last year. Like he made his 1 point.
I would imagine he was probably 894 or something like that, or he was on his ELC.
His cap hit was 925. There were some bonuses in there. Oh, sorry, no. Yeah, 9. But 3-year, $5.3 million contract, but the cap hit was 925. I guess there was some performance bonuses in there, so I imagine he'll get a bump up with the role he played. But I would think for a guy like Morgan Barron, that should be pretty easy to figure out. And Gabe Villardi, I agree. I mean, they just traded for him. They're not gonna do anything. So, to me, nothing to see here. Is just part of the process.
Yeah, certainly nothing to worry about. But it would be they're I would say that they're listen. When they're talking to these players right now, they're looking at making things bright for the future. They're not looking to getting into contentious negotiations. And listen, Morgan Barron spent 3 years in the National Hockey League, and he's been making $925 a year. He's going to get, his qualifying offer is $874,000. I would imagine he'll get a raise. He could probably end up somewhere in the Dylan Samberg territory. Maybe not quite there. He had 8 goals. He had 8 goals last year, I think, in 21 points over the course of 70 games. So, not numbers, as far as offensively that are going to stand out and earn him a big deal. But I do think that Barron is poised, like Samberg is, to take a big step forward. Will they consider maybe signing him to a longer-term deal at, more than a 1.3, 1.4, which you'd probably get on a bridge deal? Potentially, because I do think they really like him, and he's got a great future going forward. But anyways, that will take care of. I would imagine it's probably a shorter-term deal. Villardi's interesting, though, because he, of course, is here. I think the Winnipeg Jets would love the optics of a long-term commitment with Villardi. And for a guy that, as you mentioned, Remo, just sort of said, okay, thank you, here's the contract last year, certainly has a lot more, I think, to support, a nice significant raise, especially when you consider he's the centerpiece of the Pierre-Luc Dubois deal. And if he was open to that longer-term deal, I think the Jets would be as well, because they're obviously quite confident that he's a player they want to have long-term, considering the fact that he was the centerpiece of the return for PLD. So that's going to be an interesting negotiation to see how long it takes when they get something done, and whether it is shorter or whether they end up buying some UFA years for Gabriel Villardi in the future.
Yeah, he sounded like he was, pumped to come here from his conference call. And yeah, he's making $825K last year, and what a great year. 23 goals, 18 assists, 41 points. I agree. It would look great if they signed him long-term. Maybe you want to, I guess a lot of players aren't signing long-term, Huss, because the salary cap is anticipate to go up, but I guess it depends on how much you want to secure the bag and maybe signing long-term with the team you just got traded to. I mean, I think about Jonathan Huberdeau. I don't think he had a choice but to sign that contract, but you have to wonder, like, for him, he's like, maybe I wish I knew what I was getting into. But, I mean, although, look at the contract he signed to be happy. So for Balharry, I'm curious how that plays out as well. Has the, former first-round pick, 11th overall in 2017. Talk about the draft of the same year as Dylan Samberg, and 23 goals last year. That's a nice season. I do wonder, Huss, who do you think scores more goals next year? Gabe Vilardi or Pierre-Luc Dubois? Because Vilardi scored.
Great question.
Vilardi scored 23 in 63 games. Dubois scored 27 in 73. And I anticipate Vilardi's going to get huge opportunity here in Winnipeg. And I don't know. I feel like it's going to be pretty close.
You know what? I might take Vilardi. I may take Vilardi on that. Certainly, I mean, in a goals per game last year, he had more. Dubois was a centerpiece of pretty much everything the Winnipeg Jets did. I mean, played with top players, got tons of minutes, played on the power play. Vilardi getting that opportunity. This might be maybe a plug to sign him to a bit longer of a term deal. I mean, the Jets, he did have his entry-level slide in the first year. So he has kind of 3 years of service. So the Jets do have 4 years of team control. I think it would be awesome if they could put together something like a 6-year deal that rewards him for both what he did last season and kind of gives him a pretty good idea of where he's going to be going forward and a real commitment to him. Probably a great way to start off the relationship. But again, his agent, I mean, if I'm his agent, I'm thinking, wow, he just had this breakout season. If we end up doing a 2-year deal and he becomes a 30, 35 goal scorer here in Winnipeg and a consistent top 6 player that's relied on, you're talking about a big, big increase at a time when the cap goes up. So there's a lot of fascinating things about the market right now. The market for unrestricted free agents and how many shorter term deals they are, the market for RFAs, and then the trade market, as we have ended up talking plenty about when it comes to players like Connor Hellebuck and what that trade market does when it is assumed that a player is going to need to get paid for what he's done so far in the league, which in Hellebuck's case would be a big money extension, potentially in excess of $9 million a year.
Yeah, just on Vilardi versus Dubois, you look at goals per game last season, Vilardi 0.37, Dubois also 0.37. But how about goals per what?
In goals per game?
Yeah, that's goals per game. But how about goals per 60 minutes of ice time, Huss? Dubois not quite as efficient with the 1.2 goals per 60 and Vilardi 1.4 goals per 60. So with some additional opportunity, I think he would get that here more than he got. You'd expect a couple more goals here for Vilardi than last season. How that matches now, obviously injuries factor in, but I feel like that's are we done? Have we put to bed the who won the Line trade, or is it that debate still going now as we go Dubois versus Vilardi and everything else they got? Iafallo.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, I think it's still totally up in the air. I mean, listen, if Iafallo becomes, a real great player for this team and, Vilardi outscores Dubois next season, I mean, listen, if Line goes and scores 50 with Columbus, it'll be Columbus. But I think we need to reevaluate things when we see what happens over the course of this next little bit. By the way, you just gave me a good idea. Do not let me forget. When we get closer to the start of the season, I'll talk to Pat and the boys over at Coolbet, and I will get a head-to-head prop and a line. Who will score more goals this season? Vilardi versus PLD. And we'll have some fun with that one. I think a lot of Winnipeg Jet fans will be hoping that it's the new guy as opposed. By the way, did you see PLD arrive late last night at LAX?
Is PLD still allowed? People said they don't want us to talk about him.
Well, they'll like this. The reason I bring this up is that there was a picture of him and, sort of a 6-second video clip of him just saying, hey, whatever, great to be in LA. And I was thinking about texting you last night going, is there any way we could just dub a voice over what he says and go, "Hi, this is PLD. I'm demanding a trade from the LA Kings."
Oh my God. Someone said one thing about PLD. Oh yeah, we said who won the trade. I think it was Royster commented PLD won the trade, if anyone did. And I said, yes, he definitely did. He definitely did win, but are we still? Someone actually tweeted us we didn't talk about this. Someone tweeted us a video of them burning a Pierre-Luc Dubois jersey.
That's
and
right. He was done. Campfire time for the PLD 80.
And I just wonder about that reception when he comes back early in the season for him, as we're, we'll be talking about this trade and the PLD Line A trade tree. It's going to keep going here, Huss.
Serious. Check out that video. If there's any way we could have a little fun and just dub a trade request over Dubois arriving at the LAX airport last night, I think we could get some good run on social media. Listen, we're going to talk about all of this coming up with Scotty Billeck, who's been down at Jets development camp for the last little bit. I know a lot of people are talking about Philip Zadina in chat, Reem. Mm-hmm. And this is such a weird story. And listen, all high first round picks don't always click. Although Vancouver famously picked who was the guy? Was it the
defenseman?
Yeah, the defenseman
over Ehlers.
Ulei over.
Okay, they picked Virtanen over Ehlers, and the fans there were very, very upset. But was the Ulei over like Tkachuk?
Yeah, over Tkachuk, exactly, which is still haunting them, and he's been sort of let go. But they do thank the Red Wings for picking Philip Zadina because they got Quinn Hughes next. And this is unbelievable. The Wings and Zadina are mutually terminating his contract, so he's walking away from, I believe, $4.5 million. So I don't think he's looking for a prove-it 1-year league minimum deal. It's just a weird situation, though. He is, a relatively talented offensive player. His defensive numbers are absolutely atrocious right now, and didn't feel that he should go to the American Hockey League at all. So that is going to be a situation to look for. Has cleared waivers on his deal right now. So what's going to be out there for him? Not sure. I'm sure there'll be money for him in Europe or in Russia if he wants to go that route. But as they say, when you have a talented player that just didn't work out in his first stop, there will be a team, that'll probably take a swing, and be interesting to see if the Jets have any interest in Zadina. Are we going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, picked 6 overall in 2018. Got 68 points in 190 games in the NHL. What about, we talked, Colorado signed Jonathan Drouin. We talked about what they did with Nikushkin. So many people thought this guy was going to be a surefire NHL star when he was drafted. What if Colorado got him at min salary and turned him into the next Nikushkin?
Yeah, well, it's just a 1-year deal. So, although the next Nichushkin, do you want that right now? A guy that you finally go and give a huge amount of money, and the next thing you know, in the middle of the playoffs, he's
you get him
doing some rather unsavory things that he shouldn't be doing, and ended up having to leave the team.
Sorry, Nikushkin as in failed prospect that you sign for nothing that becomes, fulfills that potential that you thought he was capable of. That's what I'm getting at. Not at any off-ice incidents where he has to step away from the team. No.
Hey, listen, Billeck's coming up. Just before we bring him in, I did want to let you know, if you're not able to stick around to the end of the show, July 26th is going to be our group night at the Goldeyes game. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. We invite everyone to come out. We'll have a bunch of tickets together on the left field side of the stadium, near Craft Beer Corner, the barbecue joint, pierogies, all of that. Tickets are going to be $15. They're going to include a WST koozie for a few little brown jugs at the game. We're also going to have a Goldeyes prize pack, which will raffle amongst all of the people buying WST tickets. So if you want to join us at that game, we'll talk about it more when Andrew joins us. But winnipegsportstalk.com. Did they click on the store, Reem? Or is it right there on the
Click
front
on
page?
the store. There's a thing at the top of the page says WST at Goldeyes. You can just buy tickets there. And if you want to add merchandise, like does some WST stuff, promo code FISH, and you get a nice discount there. You can add some merchandise on with your ticket purchase, and you can just grab the merchandise at the game. So I think this should be a real fun thing to bring everyone
Great
together.
idea.
So winnipegsportstalk.com, WST at FISH, and you can just buy as many tickets as you want there.
Yeah, get the crew out,
And then-
hang out with us, have a few cold ones, get something to eat, and as I say, everyone's going to get a koozie, and we'll have some raffle prizes as well for everyone, and that should be a great night. We've been planning this for a while. Had great turnouts at things like the sports trivia night, but there's nothing like the ballpark in the middle of summer. So July 26th, officially, that is the date, and there you can see it. We'll talk about this, as I said. Andrew Collier is going to jump on the show a little bit later on the program. And then when you put that order in, we're going to get everyone together, and then we'll be sending out the tickets a couple days before the event. All right, hey, listen, just before we bring in Billeck, folks, if you need to get your look straightened out, maybe a little helmet reduction or just a new look, you got to get on down to Modern Man Barbershop. Now, with 8 locations in Winnipeg, including the newest locations in either Pembina Highway or Plessis Road, Modern Man Barbershops offer a variety of grooming services, including haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Book your look and make an appointment via modernmanbarber.com or give them a follow on Instagram at Modern Man Barbershops. Pool weather is back. Gorgeous today, 26 for the high, sunny. Why not make 2023 the year you take the plunge, and visit aqua-tech.ca to use their pool designer to design your own custom pool. Their team can provide on-the-spot pricing as well from designers, as well as financing options that suit you. And a whole home renovation start with Aquatech as well. With thousands of renos as their foundation, let them upgrade any space in your home. Aquatech's ready to make your reno dreams a reality. Learn more about design, pricing, and financing options at aqua-tech.ca. We got another beautiful summer weekend coming up. Kids are on the holidays right now. You might be taking holidays as well. And you know what? You got to max out every moment with your family and taking advantage of our all too brief Manitoba summers. You're going to be doing some great activities. Maybe it's boating. Maybe it's ATVs. Maybe it's go-karts. Bottom line is you got to power up whatever you need. And Manitoba Battery is the best prices in town on pretty much every kind of battery you could imagine, and the best service and the most convenient purchasing program as well. Get on over to manitobabattery.com. You'll beat the pants on price on the big box stores. You won't waste your time sitting in a Costco or a Canadian Tire parking lot. And even better, to save you more time with your family doing the things that you like right now, they'll deliver it to you anywhere inside the perimeter of Winnipeg for free, same day if you order by 1 o'clock for any purchase over $60. It's that simple. The best prices in town and the best service in town, and they'll deliver it to you for free. ManitobaBattery.com for all your battery needs. You can also pop by and see them at 1026 Logan Avenue. And hey, big Bomber game tomorrow. Canadian Club will be everywhere as the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Of course, you can grab a CC and Coke over at the Rum Hut or throughout the stadium. But of course, maybe the most popular drink right now is the CCN Ginger, which comes now in cans. You can get it at the Bomber game tomorrow, and you can also grab it in 473 milliliter cans at your local Manitoba Liquor Mart. And stick around. Might have a couple of Jim Beam social passes, which will get you into the game tomorrow, and a CC and Ginger. So stay tuned to Winnipeg Sports Talk for that. All right, let's get Billeck in here. Scotty, how are you, man? Great to have you back on the program.
I'm good. I got some of those CC and Gingers packed for the guys' weekend this weekend out in Menaki. So, yeah, those will be going down quickly and smoothly, I assume. So
those are outstanding. By the way, I hear you had quite the round out at Breezy on Monday, going toe-to-toe with Weaver.
With Weaver. Yeah, we had a good round. I was down 2 at the turn after 9. Clawed back. I think I was down by 4 at one point early on in the back 9, and then clawed it back. Weaver had a couple bad holes. I had some good holes, eagled par, or not eagled, birdied par 5, a couple pars down the stretch. But then, yeah, I mean, Kenny couldn't putt all day long, right? He couldn't putt
He couldn't
all
putt
day.
on Monday either with us.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But then he sinks this hero putt on 18, and I missed like a 6-footer, and so we tied. So that sucked.
How long did he talk about the putt after he made it? 20 minutes?
You should have been there. He literally ran. Like he ran. The putt sinks, and he's almost. You're a breezy. You finish on one side of basically the clubhouse, and you start on essentially the opposite side. I swear he ran to the first tee and back. He was so happy, right? I was like,
I love it.
And of course, I'm like, man, I'm like one shot away from taking the belt from him, right? Like all I had to do. And so you're like, I'm sitting there like pissed off that I missed like this 6-footer for which would have been a bogey, I believe, on the hole. I double bogeyed 18. I guess the pressure got to me, and he sank a clutch putt. So good on Kenny. He didn't have to I know if he would have lost, it would have hurt him hard. Like that would have cut him deep there. So I'm glad he didn't have to go through another week.
Ken is so funny, and he was hitting it so well. And I honestly got hit a couple of the worst putts. And I said to him, that's one of the worst putts I've ever seen in my life. Like he was hitting it like a top spin ping pong shot on the green. I'm like, what are you doing? And then he'd go out the next hole and just blast a hybrid 260 down. Anyways, we could talk about the golf
just
game
like one thing on 17, right? So the whole round, right? If somebody's ball goes missing, everybody's in there looking, right? We all walked past Kenny on 17 when he put one in the sticks, right? Because it's serious at this point. And he was bitching about it later. He's like, why was nobody there helping me out? It's like, well, I'm not trying to help you find your ball.
Pace of play, Ken. Pace of play.
That's right. I was like, dude, there's somebody on the tee. Like, drop a ball, take your stroke, and let's go. It was good. It was a fun round. So yeah, it was good.
We'll have to get you out.
The boys.
We'll have to get you out there too. I look forward to getting back. And Breezy's in beautiful shape right now with everything they're doing right now. Yeah. You know what? Let's. Well, first off, Dylan Samberg's contract. What did you think? 2 years, 1.4. I mean, I don't know. From a Jets perspective, I've got a lot of confidence in him long term. Yeah. I think he's going to be a heck of an NHL player for a long time. And I wouldn't have been surprised. Obviously, we don't have details of what the negotiations were like. I mean, if I was the Jets, I would have been trying to do a longer term deal a la a Zach Whitecloud or an Alex Tuck that might be some real savings later on. But I'll tell you what, I think he's going to provide incredible value to the Winnipeg Jets for 1.4 AAV over the next 2 seasons, betting on himself for a bigger extension at the end of the contract.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what it was, right? I mean, you take this 2-year bridge, hoping that more money becomes available in a couple of years, and with the cap expected to, get out of this kind of flat cap thing over the next couple of years, and hopefully move up several $1 million. There'll be money for Dylan and other players. I mean, I think we kind of saw this, right, just in free agency with these guys signing these 1 and 2 year deals, right? They're almost like don't want to call them prove it contracts, but it's a bridge to hopefully more money. If you continue to play well. And honestly, for Samberg, I mean, yeah, he probably could have secured a little bit more money on a little bit more term if he wanted to. But, for him, given the way that he played in the 63 games last year, people are, still kind of, I got a few emails this morning about, the people are still angry about the giveaway in the playoffs. But I mean, I think what we saw from Dylan Samberg was a big step this year. And he really, by the end of the year, he had overtaken Logan Stanley, who was essentially the incumbent. And has kept Ville Heinola in the minors, right? So I think it was a good year all around for Dylan Samberg. I think he could potentially be in the top 4 next year for the Jets, and I think a lot of people like the way that he played overall, right? Like big, and he uses his size, and good defensively, like makes good plays, and obviously he made some rookie mistakes. Let's not forget he was just a rookie this season, right? Like this was his rookie season based on his games played, I believe. So, I think it's a good contract for both sides. The Jets I think they would like certainty of a longer term deal, but you got to see how everything's going to play out here, because this summer, and there's still a lot left, We still don't know what's going to happen with 37, 55, right? We don't know what's happening with those guys just yet, even though I just don't believe Cheveldayoff and his thing in terms of, I don't believe the summer's over for him just yet and bringing those guys back. But good contract for Samberg and he's earned it. I think they're going to lean on him more this year than they have in previous years, and especially going into the future.
Yeah, and nothing really much to talk about the arbitration filings for Barron and Balhardy. I mean, that is how things are going to work.
Yeah.
They won't get there.
Right.
Put it this way: if they somehow get to, especially with the guy they just traded for, it's not a great way to kick off a relationship. But I assume that the Barron deal will probably be a shorter term one. The old 2-year bridge deal, very similar to Dylan Samberg's, and then see where things are at in a couple years when the cap has gone up. Velarde's interesting, though, because I could see the Winnipeg Jets maybe making a more significant longer-term commitment if the openness on the other side is there to do that. He's got 4 years to have team control. If he could get a significant raise and you're able to buy a couple years of UFA status, that'd be a heck of a way to start things off for a guy that came in return for a guy that just plain and simple had no interest in signing a long-term deal.
Well, it's funny, and just a side note, because you guys were joking early on about the maybe the trade request on Photoshop onto that photo. That was one of the first things I thought last night. First of all, I was like, oh, what kind of watch is he wearing? Because I'm a bit of a watch nerd. But then the second one, I was like, okay, well, this picture could come back up sooner or later of him while walking out of LAX there and going. But anyways, I think for Velarde, I could see them signing a 5-year deal with him, right? Buy 1 year of free agency, UFA years from him. I mean, you suggest maybe 2. Yeah, a 6-year deal could be there too. I think for Velarde, a 5-year deal makes the most sense in my mind, just because, it's only 1 year of UFA, but then, you're still kind of in your prime at 28 and you can sign a longer term deal and probably for more money, maximize your earning potential. I don't think the Jets are going to walk him to UFA status, right? So, or at least, on a 4-year deal. But I think overall, and you kind of touched on it, I think part of it is if they can just get him signed for a decent term, then you don't have to worry about it the same way that you did with Dubois, right? Or whatever. I mean, players in the past were kind of just walked themselves to UFA status and had to be traded. So I think for fans, especially, just to see a guy like Velarde gets locked up for a longer term, where there's certainty in how long he'll be here, in the price tag and that sort of thing. Because I think now is the time where you can still maybe, I don't know, let's say maybe overpay a little bit for Velarde based on his production so far, but based on projecting where he might be in 2-3 years, it could also just be a great contract at that point too. And that's kind of the juggling act that a GM always has with these types of things. But I think the most important thing for Velarde is, one, obviously avoid arbitration at all costs. It won't get there. I don't think it's getting there for either player.
Inconceivable.
It certainly would be 100%, right? But at the same time, I think step 2 there is get him locked up for a good time, buy a couple UFA years, 1 or 2, and then go from there. Because I think it just settles things within the organization and outside of it, where people are just like, okay, finally, after this whole debacle with Laine and now Dubois, there's a guy here that they've got in this trade, a promising young player that could potentially even play center, that's going to be here for a while and is committed and here long term to kind of help the team press forward with a different leadership core and all that stuff that's going on.
And he's going to have every opportunity, I think, to play a big time role, especially with the possibility of Scheifele not being here as well. I mean,
right.
And you're talking about, and at that point, maybe if that is what the writing on the wall is, it makes a lot of sense to try to, pay him more right now and get him extended, into buying a couple of UFA years. I think it would be a great way to start off the relationship, showing the amount of belief. And let's face it, from Velarde's side of things, that might be attractive too, because, we can't overlook the injury issues that he had early on in his career. And I think at that point, especially if you have some of that in your background, you have to seriously consider the security of that long-term contract as opposed to doing 1 year, 2 year bridge deals all the time. Because, I mean, listen, in a contract year, if you get knocked out and only play 30, 35 games, what does that do to your potential for your next contract? So that's going to be really interesting to see how it goes. But I'll say this, he certainly sounded and said a lot of the right things off. And I was really impressed with Alex Iafallo. I know you were on the call as well. We'd heard a lot of things about Iafallo, a guy that, I mean, listen, I don't blame the guy for loving Southern California and having a great lifestyle there. But considering, I think, some of the speculation about how he might have reacted to the trade, I thought he was a real breath of fresh air. And I think Jet fans have to be excited to see what this young man's going to bring, at least for the next 2 years that he's under contract.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that we had heard about, at the time he got traded, just kind of pulling around and, texting guys that are out there in LA and that sort of thing, and just trying to get an idea of, who Alex Iafallo is, right? I mean, you hear about, this is a guy that's, pretty good at leadership and is a good, room guy on top of being able, being a good talent on the ice. But I mean, let's not make a mistake here. I mean, I would imagine for a guy who, likes to surf like Alex Iafallo does and that sort of thing, having to leave that place is a disappointment. I mean, I think any guy who gets, into a team like that, who's been there for his entire career, I think a lot of guys, dream of sometimes, playing out and being there. But
are you there to surf or you're there to play hockey?
Well, that's it, right? I mean, this is the business of the game. And even though guys that in the past that have been upset about the getting traded, they eventually, you get over that and you realize, you're a pro and you got to be a pro in these situations and that sort of thing. And to be honest, I thought he has been. And everything I've heard about him from people that have been around him is that he is a pro and that, regardless of how he might have felt by getting traded, it's not going to matter come September. It's not going to matter come the season. It's not going to, whatever. This is a guy that's all in on the team. He's really good, in terms of his leadership and that sort of thing. So, I'm not expecting, anything to be an issue there. I think this is a guy that's going to be all in for this team because, that's what he's paid to do. But that's the type of player that he's known as. And so I don't think there's going to be, I don't think there's anything to worry about or whatever. And you're right. I mean, I thought he conducted himself well. And I mean, it's not Southern California at Winnipeg, but, it's also a place where, you're going to get a fan base that's a lot different than it would be in LA too, in my opinion. And, people just kind of love you here. That's just the way it is in the Canadian market. And so I think he's going to enjoy that too. So we'll see how it goes. But I thought it went well, and I didn't think there was. I thought he handled it well, and whatever disappointment may or may not be there on him, it's not going to matter.
Hey, speaking of being loved by the fans, what a vibe out at the Hockey for All Center over the last couple of days.
I mean. Yeah, I don't know. What do you
as I said, I'm sure a lot of people have been talking about it. And frankly, I mean, no one cares about the beep test or the whatever drills they're doing. I mean, this is about bringing these young men into the organization, meeting each other, but also it's their first sort of, introduction or connection with the fans. And, I mean, rock star Rutger McGroarty leading the way. And a lot of other guys have been following. I saw a lot more today. I mean, Brad Lambert and Thomas Milic there, and they seem to be enjoying it. And I mean, it is such. To say it's a breath of fresh air is the understatement of all time, considering sort of the cloud around this team for the better part of the last few years. And I know it's not going to change everything overnight. But you can't help but have a smile on your face being around those guys in that scene. And tell you what, for a team that really needed that sort of boost of positivity, it is very, very welcomed.
Yeah, it's been great to watch. One of the mistakes I thought the Jets made last year was not having a development camp, because every other team had it. And I know, it's a logistical nightmare at times, and especially last year, it was still, it was the first year for a lot of teams that were getting back into it. But after the year that the Jets had, I think maybe you forget how kind of uplifting these kind of weeks can be for fans and that sort of thing, because you get to see the future players and after you sign McGroarty and the way that he was at the draft, and just Dom DiVincentis as well, same sort of thing, right? Like these guys were kind of character guys, but also kind of let their personality show. And after the way that last year ended, I kind of wondered, well, maybe this would be a good way to kind of move into a time of where you're starting to you almost forget about it when you're at these type of events. But coming back to this year, you can see why, in my opinion, why some of these guys have been drafted by the Jets. I mean, Rutger McGroarty, this kid, I don't even know how to describe him. Like he's somebody that you don't really see that often. Like maybe it's just because the league hasn't the poison, I like to call it, hasn't gotten to him yet. That happens when you kind of turn pro and you start maybe getting away from some of the things that you would normally do. But he oozes this the confidence, but he gets it, right? He gets being in this market. He gets the idea of just giving back to the fans. Whether it takes nothing for him when he gets off the ice. Watching him this morning, he gets out. He's smiling. He's smiling coming off. He knew because he had kids coming down the staircase and waiting just to get their thing signed. People are asking for his stick and all that. I mean, right behind him, Fabian Wagner was there too, doing it this morning too. Some of the other guys were doing it. But Rutger has taken the time. Like it's almost like I don't know if somebody got to him, but I think this is just kind of his personality. Like he likes to engage with the fans. He likes to engage with the kids. I think he understands what that means to a guy. And it'd be interesting to know. This is an NHL or an NHL prospect that came from Lincoln, Nebraska, where you don't really see a lot of NHL players, and talent, and all that kind of things. And so I wonder sometimes, here's a guy with maybe along the line he would wanted to have had this opportunity, and as a kid to just see his favorite player, didn't get that just based on where he is or whatever. But no, I mean he's great, and just like I've called it the Step Brothers vibe that him and Colby Barlow have, right? It's like that. It is hilarious to watch these two. Yesterday was really interesting because I can't remember if time. I've covered enough of these development camps over the years since 2013 that you've seen it and you've seen guys, but I don't know if the Jets are doing something different where it's just like all of these guys have just kind of been loitering around the room. Like, does somebody still want to talk to me? Like, it's almost like they want to be, spoken to or, whatever. I
think it's exciting
Lambert
for them.
Well, I agree. Right. But it's like, they're not, it's not like they just want to get out of there and whatever. Like, McGroarty, you were in the room yesterday. They were doing some sort of push-up thing. I don't know if that made it onto TikTok or the Jets Instagram or whatever it was. But it just seems like, those two for sure have been like two peas in a pod. And they clicked right away. And I mean, these guys didn't really know each other before Colby got drafted last week, and then obviously Rutger, but they only met at the airport earlier this week for the first time, and so it's interesting. It's been fun to kind of watch, and it's I think the future. You hate to make these kind of declarations after 1 or 2 days of development camp, but there's some good character in that room, right? And one of the things that we've talked ad nauseum about over the last is culture and all that stuff. But there really does seem to be a concerted effort this year to kind of change. Like I don't know, you saw the Jimmy Roy speech, obviously that was put on Twitter there, the snippet of it. Jimmy Roy talked yesterday about trust and respect. I mean, those are some of the words we heard at the end of last season that was maybe lacking: trust, respecting your teammate, that sort of thing. You're hearing those words now in Jimmy Roy's speech about relationships, about team building and stuff like that. And I know development camps are always about that sort of thing, but it's way more vocal this year. But you're also seeing players that kind of almost personify that in the way that they kind of act and get along with each other. There just seems to be a more, and maybe it's because there's been 3 years
Billeck,
since
let me throw this at you.
But yeah,
let me
sure,
throw this at you.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want, I mean, I think and the people in the chat know me. I'm a positive guy. I'm really excited about about where this is going. And I think a big part of that pick last year, Colby Barlow, because, I mean, listen, there were a lot of other players that they could have selected at that time that all had, a lot of reasons why you'd want them in your organization. But I really think that this team and the organization has, realized some of the missteps over the ways. Yeah. And, and I think about, the way, like Ehlers and Laine were almost like slagged for being fun-loving guys and doing that. We saw where that went. Yeah. And like, I was having a beer with a friend last night, and I said, if this was 10 years ago in 2012, and you had these young guys coming in, like, would they be encouraged to be so fun-loving and all out there? Yeah. I don't think so. But again, and I don't say this to shit on everything that happened in the past. I say say that I think there has been a realization, and for everyone that said, "Oh, this is the way they always do things," I think that at a certain point, sometimes you need to make mistakes to learn from them, and I really do believe that the Winnipeg Jets, all the way up to the top, have sort of realized that maybe a couple of the ways that they, as a team, as a room, as an organization, handled some of the younger players were to the detriment of the organization at the end, and they're not going to make that mistake again. And at the same time, for a fan base that is looking to the future, I mean, you couldn't have two better young prospects in Barlow and McGroarty with their attitudes, the skill that they bring to the table to come and really sort of reinvigorate a fan base, even if neither of them are likely to be on the team this year.
I mean, I look at Anaheim with Trevor Zegras and the way that they've kind of promoted him and allowed him to be Trevor Zegras, right? Which may at times come across as cocky or whatever. But there's a personality there that you don't get with some of the veteran NHLers, right? Jack Hughes in New Jersey is another one where I'm looking at, like, they're just allowing this guy. And so if you're an astute GM, organization, whatever, you're looking at this and, okay, this league is becoming younger and younger and younger. And things that sell the product in these towns too, it's the individual names. And a lot of it times these days now, it's a lot of these younger kids that are coming through they have this, electric attitude or, personality, let's say. And it's something that you can celebrate, not try and beat out of them. You know what I mean? Like it's not something where you have to, like, I agree with you with the Ehlers and the Laine. Like, I remember us always talking about over and over again about, this kind of bromance, quote unquote, between Laine and Ehlers. But after a while, I mean, obviously Laine leaving, that kind of changed things. But it was almost like, you're right, it was almost like it was frowned upon in this organization. I think the decision,
like, these guys don't take their job seriously. Well, exactly, you're professionals right now.
But nobody was saying that about Dustin Byfuglien, right? Even though Dustin Byfuglien was the same thing, but
a lot of people did. But
they did. But
he could just do whatever the hell he wanted because he was buff.
But I think this even goes back to Evander Kane, right? And say what you want about Evander Kane. We can talk it now. But Evander Kane was a different type of player. He had a different attitude about it, different bravado. People didn't like it at times, but those are the types of things that, I think drew people initially to Evander Kane before all the, everything went wrong there, obviously. But, I think there's now the character matches that with these new guys. And honestly, I mean, I'm not trying to crap on Blake Wheeler, but I think what happened last Friday, I think the clouds are starting to kind of, dissipate around this organization. There's not going to be this, well, hopefully this kind of falls under, hopefully this is okay with Blake and the rest of the leadership. Like, I think there's going to be more of an allowance for this going forward just because of that alone, that move alone. And I think you're right. On top of that, the team has certainly learned, and that's the feeling I've gotten over the last couple of days being here, watching how they're using the social media team for the Jets to do these things, get to know these guys a little more, way different than they've done in different years. And just the way that these kids, let's call them, have kind of embraced it, right? I think the Jets are finally starting to maybe harnessing that, I guess is the right word, instead of, curtailing it before it kind of gets wherever it was going to get. Like I never understood the reason why you would do that, because I think, well, I mean, for us in the media, personality is great. You want that. You want a little bit more, but I think you're right. I think part of it has been they've learned from their maybe past mistakes in this thing. I think also the darker clouds that have been over this organization or in the leadership, and I think with that not being maybe here anymore, I think the whole team can kind of just breathe and spread its wings a little bit too.
So Brett says throw Billeck in the shower, which is a great one. Listen, the thing about Evander was, and I was here for his bravado, and I mean, I thought, from a fan standpoint, it was fun. Yeah. He was a jerk, man. He pissed off all of his teammates, tons of those people. So he was he's sort of in a I'm just saying he was in a bit of a different category.
Sure, 100% agree. Yeah,
but I think because of that, they kind of went so far the other way. Right, I think to a detriment of some of that. And as I say, you know what, you learn things along the way. And I think that if there's something to be said for the continuity of the people that are running this club, they've had the opportunity to make mistakes and I think learn from them. And I think this team and this organization is in a better spot because of it. And the bottom line is they're picking good young men, great players, but great people, great characters, and they're letting them be themselves. This is not about turning them into some hockey robot that is just like everybody else. And I think that'll be great for the team, and it'll certainly be great for the organization and the community.
Well, I think this is one of the things, right? If you're going to stick with Kevin Cheveldayoff in this organization, right? One thing that I would imagine that Mark Chipman wants to see is that there is some sort of tangible difference in the way that he is going about running his organization or building the team, let's say, right? I mean, I think in the drafts in past years, we've seen character players get drafted, right? Josh Morrissey, Adam Lowry. We can go along with Jacob Trouba, all those guys. It doesn't matter how Jacob Trouba's time here left. He's a good guy. He's obviously the captain of the New York Rangers. We know there's character there. But, I think maybe, they've maybe shied away from that in the past. But what you want to see going forward from Cheveldayoff specifically is that there is a change in the way that they, the way that not the maybe draft kids, but they allow these kids to be themselves. And that's just one part of, the change that you need to see if you're going to stick with a guy that hasn't, necessarily brought the success that you want this team to have. So, yeah, I totally agree. I think,
coaching is a big part of it too. I mean, and listen, Maurice,
things, right?
Maurice is a bit of an old schooler. Bottom line is, again, I don't want to get into a big thing and relitigate everything that's happened before, but I just think that there has been some lessons learned.
Yeah, and you can see it. You can feel it, right? And I think that's the, for me yesterday, like I put a tweet, and for me it was like, and I don't think it was just because this hasn't happened in a few years. Like there was a tangible feeling of like something's different with the way that they're doing this year. Yeah. And you got Murat coming on next. I mean, he can speak to that too. But I think, for me, being around this team for the last 11 years now, I feel like there's a different change. I'm not trying to say that to the hope springs eternal and all that kind of crap. No, it's just like that's how I feel.
It's impossible to be around and not get that feeling. You
just feel it. Yeah.
Billeck, have a great time in Manaki. Good weekend. We'll see you out at the rink. Chuck, Winnipeg, Evander triggers us. I'll be honest. I'm a huge Evander fan, and I'm actually really happy for him that he seems to have got his life together. And you know what? I mean, there's a reason second chances are important. He's maybe on number 3 or 4. But the bottom line is, I think that he is he's sort of gotten it, and he's rubbed a ton of people the wrong way, a lot of teammates, a lot of teams and stuff like that. Yeah. But the guy's got incredible talent, and it would be an absolute waste if he didn't get the most out of it. He's in a great spot in Edmonton for him, and I know there's a lot of people that can't stand him. I'm not that guy. I wish him the best for him. He's got a couple of kids now. With actually his old girlfriend that he used to date while she would be coming in to visit him here. So listen, but I mean, I'm not going to sit here and defend everything that he did. I mean, at the same time,
don't get me wrong, that's not what I was doing.
I'm not saying you are.
Exactly.
I just wanted to say for Chuck's comment. Anyways, take it easy, pal. Good stuff. We'll do. We've got Murat coming up. We are going to talk Bombers. Ed Tait coming up at the bottom of the hour. with the latest on the blue and gold. Really sad passing of Adam Bighill's father. But on the other side of things, a pretty exciting day for Nick Dembski, who is the proud father of a baby girl. So we'll get to all of that. Just before we bring in Murat, guys, if you're looking for great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries, and Winnipeg's largest assortment of local products too, you got to get on down to one of 7 Vita Health Fresh Market stores or online at myvita.ca. And hey, with barbecue season in full swing, get down to Vita Health and stock up on some delicious Vita Market grass-fed bison and beef steaks. And hey, if you need a little help with your men's gastrointestinal health, check out some unique formulas from Garden of Life like Prostate Protect and Once Daily Men's. Vita Health Fresh Market, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 7 Winnipeg locations, and shop online with local delivery options at myvita.ca. Our friends at Wallace & Wallace are busy right now as Winnipeg's fencing and overhead door specialists. Lots of work to be done in the summer, and they're ready for as the leaders in the industry since 1946. If you need a new fence, vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood, whatever you need, Wallace & Wallace has you covered. And if it's time to replace your garage door, they've also got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. Give them a call at 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Road off of Kenniston. Fellas, how's the closet looking? You ready for wedding season and what's to come after you're finished wearing shorts every day for the next 8 weeks? Well, if you need to up your menswear game heading into the fall, you got to get on down to F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos and golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. If you are in a wedding party or planning on having one, talk to the fellas down there about a 15% discount for the entire wedding party when you get your suits at F Apparel. You look great on the big day. You'll be able to wear those suits into the future, not just return them on Monday like a bad tux rental. F Apparel's down at 190 Smith Street. You can make an appointment at F Apparel. That's EPHapparel.com, or check out the website for more information. And hey, just before we bring in Murat, big shout out to Nick and Nikki over at Nick and Nikki DQ. This is prime time blizzard season, the good time right now, and all the summer blizzard flavors are in. They've got some birthday cake cookie dough one as well. I haven't tried it, but I'm very intrigued. Maybe I have to hit up this weekend. Of course, they've got 4 locations: DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's, and DQ Niverville. If you got a big birthday party or an event, go to DQ Manitoba on Instagram. Send them a message of how you want your cake customized. They'll have it ready for you for a quick and easy pickup at any of the 4 Nick and Nikki DQs. All right, let's get Murat Atesh in here to continue the conversation. Murat, what's good, man? How are you?
Hey, doing well. Some fire conversation between you and Scott Billeck right there.
Yeah, well, you know what? There's a lot to talk about right now. Listen, just before we go down that road, because I'm sure that will sort of that's really been the topic of the last couple days. First off, I wondered, what did you think about the Dylan Samberg extension at 1.4? I mean, I think for the next couple of years, it's going to provide incredible value for the club. We had talked in the past, though, this might have been a good time to try to get a real long-term deal at a little bit more. But I guess if I'm Dylan Samberg and considering the way the season went last year, I think I'm quite fine betting on myself, because I think in a couple years with a bigger cap and a bigger role, he might be in for a contract that really sets him up better than might be on the table right now.
Yeah, 1.4 million times 2 years. There's a lot of advantages to it, and then there's just a hint of risk to it as well if you're the Winnipeg Jets. And 1.4 million for what he delivered in a third pair role, phenomenal value. There is a situation, and I warn people about this every time I talk about defensemen, in terms of the minutes they play, the quality of competition that they face. A first pairing and a second pairing is not that different from each other. There are just too many good players and too many minutes to go around. But a third pairing can be sheltered, can be protected from some of those top matchups. It's what I warned coming out of Logan Stanley's rookie season. And it's what to keep in mind about Samberg, who's further along, to be clear, but his tremendous performance as well. Don't expect you could put him on the top or second pair next season and automatically have success. But at 1.4 million, for the degree to which he outperforms his role on the lineup right now, that's a tremendous value deal for the Winnipeg Jets. If they can't clear some of those veterans out in the next year or two, or even before the season, well, he can continue to give you a better than third pairing defenseman from that third pairing role. That's good. The one element of risk, and that maybe plays into Dylan Samberg betting on himself, like you suggested, Huss, is what happens when this deal is over? Well, then 2 years from now, he's 1 year away from unrestricted free agency and he has arbitration rights. I think the relationship is pretty good. I don't think this is Jacob Trouba or Andrew Kopp, but that's exactly what they did. Remember, this is exactly the timing of a contract ending and the arbitration rights, so that if they should choose, if Dylan Samberg should choose 2 years from now, he'd be able to file for arbitration, guarantee himself a 1 year out. He'd be an unrestricted free agent the following season, free to sign anywhere. So that's the hint of concern that I think should be talked about now, even if it doesn't seem probable, on what's otherwise a very, very good deal for the Winnipeg Jets, who might sign him long-term anyways before that happens. It's just a path we've seen some Jets walk out the door before.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say, in all fairness, the Trouba situation was unique. Andrew Kopp wanted a deal. They spent $10 million on Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt and didn't have the money to sign him. They made other decisions that made that extension to Andrew Kopp. I mean, if we believe what he said, he was planning on signing a long-term deal. And listen, you got to make tough decisions in professional sports, and that one ended up leading to him leaving. But again, if you look at what the return for Andrew Kopp is right now, that was a big topic around development camp with Elias Salmonson and Brad Lambert, and of course Morgan Barron, who's just filed for arbitration as well. It did go well. I mean, if they don't think they can sign him, obviously they can end up trading him, and so it's not like they're going to walk him right to unrestricted free agency, with this deal. That being said, I think he'll have the opportunity to really prove himself as a top four defenseman and really put him in line for, a bigger contract at the end of this. And as they say, 1.4 on the books for the next 2 years with what that young man is bringing, quite good. Have you thought at all about Barron or Vilardi contracts?
Yeah, I mean, I spent some time thinking about that for sure. And to be clear on Samberg, if I could pie chart my feelings, 3/4 positive, 1/4, just keep that timeline in mind. Vilardi, I was talking to his agent yesterday a little bit and, confirmed that he was filing for arbitration. So I posted that yesterday. And I just think that's a situation where if you're the Winnipeg Jets, there's no way you want Gabriel Vilardi's first contract to be signed through arbitration. So what's happening? What happens next? Let's say they can't come up with a deal on their own. Well, pretty soon a date will get announced between July 20th and August 4th. They would go to a hearing. Vilardi would point to his representation would point to his breakout season, his promise, all of that sort of stuff, make a case for a big raise. And it would be Winnipeg's job to explain in front of him why he doesn't deserve it. And that would be just an awful way to start a contractual relationship. You mentioned Andrew Kopp. I think one of the reasons why, in addition to the fact that there's a bit of a cap squeeze, that Kopp didn't sign here long-term, began with arbitration. It was a situation where he always felt like he was worthy of minutes higher up the lineup and probably a better compensation as well. And that wouldn't have been a positive experience for him to go through that. So in Vilardi's case, I think if you're the Winnipeg Jets, you look at the fact the earliest eligibility he has for unrestricted free agency is 2027. You want either a deal between 1 and 3 years for as reasonable of a cap hit as you can put together, or something extremely long-term. At 23 years old, a long-term bet on Vilardi would carry some risk, but it's also a really good swing that you might be able to take if you think the cap's going to go up, and if you really believe in him to become a real impactful top 2 line player, top 6 player for the Winnipeg Jets. I'll just say, Huss, if it's under $4 million, I think Winnipeg will have done just fine in terms of that if it's a long-term deal.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, if you're going to buy unrestricted years, which we're talking about a 5 or a 6 year deal, I would imagine the number would be more than that. And I think the Jets would be fine with doing that. And to be honest, I think starting off the relationship like that with the new player that was acquired in the fashion that he was would be great for the Winnipeg Jets to get that done. Now, whether there's the interest in doing that, I'm not sure. The one thing, and I mentioned this to Scott earlier, that I kind of think You know, if I'm Velarde's agent and I put myself in his position and the Winnipeg Jets are saying, you know, here's 5 or 5.5 for 6 years. I mean, you've got some cost certainty. You know, you're set for a long time. It brings you to 28, 29. We'll have the opportunity to sign another. You know, you're going to get a great opportunity here to really fly. You can't forget about the injury issues that he's had in the past. And that sort of security might be good for a player that has had some issues like that. And again, it's risky somewhat from the team's perspective, but I do think it's something that they would consider long and hard because of his background as well.
Yeah, it's one of those concerns. Like, one of the reasons that this 23-year-old player who people had a lot of high hopes for has had one really tremendous breakout season. And even in that, it wasn't a full 82 games, has been some health issues and has been an issue with his back that recurred a little bit. And he says that's behind him, and that's good. Good for him. That's what the player that Winnipeg is getting. And so I would understand some desire for security in the long haul because of that. I really would. I wonder if I'm him too, though. Like, another argument, if you really believe that, you know, if you're indestructible, you're not going to get hurt again, then maybe, you know, 1 or 2 years right now where you're able to take that tremendous top 6 opportunity, play with, you know, some really high-end offensive talent, and you're not buried on the third line like you were in LA. Maybe you put up some nice numbers, and maybe a year or two from now when that cap's gone up, you're able to say, okay, well, forget about, you know, 5 or 6. Let's talk something altogether in a different stratosphere. That's a lot of projection and guesswork, but it's one of those situations where you would understand if a player had a few different opinions about it, and the team too. And arbitration will guarantee they have a contract of some kind. That's fine. I just think that it would, even if it is just 1 or 2 years right now, you'd want that to be reached before everybody has to tell each other why their arguments are horrible, you know?
No doubt. Murat of The Athletic with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Listen, we'll leave the love in out on the west side of the city for the end. We haven't spoken since the weekend, and of course, Laurent Brossoit was brought back on a 1-year deal at $1.75 million. What was very interesting was some of the things we heard from Kevin Cheveldayoff, basically talking about a tandem with Connor Hellebuyck, and even opening up the possibility that Hellebuyck and Mark Scheifele could be back. How did you take everything that the general manager had to say on the weekend, and what do you make of the situations right now, considering a market or lack thereof for Scheifele, and certainly I think some cold feet on part of other NHL teams to pay the price the Jets want for Hellebuyck and sign him to a big money extension that takes him to 38 or 39 years old?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it on the head right there, Huss. And you and me, we were in Nashville. We were sitting beside each other when Kevin Cheveldayoff sort of maybe surprised us a little bit, right? By saying, look, these guys are big parts of our future, and we're preparing as if they're going to be part of our future. And then he doubles down on it on Saturday and repeats it again. And now he's talking about a tandem with Hellebuyck and Brossoit, and how Brossoit, you know, is happy to back Hellebuyck up and all that sort of stuff. And it seems very much that there's been a change. Now, he doesn't talk all of the time, so it's not necessarily a change in Cheveldayoff's dialogue so much as a change in what folks around the league are saying. And I've tried to poke around a little bit, and I think the question that's on everybody's mind, I think we all probably share the same conclusion about, is, well, does this mean that the market was cold? And that's what I'm getting told. You know, I don't have every GM on speed dial or anything like that, but the people who I've talked to are saying that, yeah, that's absolutely a fair impression, is that, you know, based on the kinds of prices that they'll command in terms of contract dollars, based on the stage of their career they're at, no, Winnipeg wasn't getting premier offers for these players 1 year away from free agency or needing an expensive extension. So if you're the Jets, you're looking at people offering you 10 cents or a quarter on the dollar or whatever the appropriate number is, and you see the quality of player that you actually have. You size up your lineup on paper and wonder, like, hey, we might be able to make the playoffs or actually even be pretty good if Hellebuyck's on this team all year. Then maybe you pivot. Maybe you think to yourself, well, we did so well with Andrew Kopp at the trade deadline. Maybe we could do it again with Mark Scheifele if we need to. Or maybe Hellebuyck's so good we can do one last dance. Or maybe even the possibility of extensions for these guys. And I don't know that was a real strong bet, you know, before all of this stuff happened. And now I'm hearing like maybe there is a possibility to extend Mark Scheifele. Hellebuyck, I think, I just see Hellebuyck long term somewhere in the States earning good money on a contender. But it's a big change from what we used to be thinking would be happening this season. The other thing I'll say, pardon me, just a little pause there, is that Laurent Brossoit is almost the perfect goaltender as long as he stays healthy to give Winnipeg options. He can be a 1B behind Hellebuyck, given the success that he's had recently, play 30 games or so. He can be a pure backup if for some reason they're obsessed with playing Hellebuyck 60 plus. Or if you get to the trade deadline and you think, well, okay, Hellebuyck's on the way out, Brossoit can be part of a tandem somehow else. If you can get any other goaltender at all, or if you're willing to roll the dice on him alone, he's not one of those backups where you're like, okay, that's all he is. We've seen him be more, and we think there's maybe some room there.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought that, I mean, bringing LB back, there's a lot of positives to that. First of all, I mean, he's a guy that fit in here really well. It says something about him being willing to come back. And I got to tell you, I mean, you know where I'm at with both Scheifele and Hellebuyck. I mean, I am completely out on any even thought of an extension on 55. But unlike many, I'm not as down. And listen, I know that there's risk involved when you sign a player with that sort of commitment. But I don't know if it's good business to be getting rid of your best player. And he means so much to this club. I would think long and hard about, potentially going back to the well and seeing if there's a way to keep it. It might be a non-starter because he might have his set on playing somewhere in the States and he's got one more year to do it, and you figure that out. But I agree wholeheartedly with what you said about Brossoit in that I think he's a great, great partner for Hellebuyck. And I mean, if you've got those two guys as your 1 and 2, I mean, you're right there with the best goaltending tandems in the National Hockey League, and that'll win you a lot of hockey games over the course of the year. And if Hellebuyck does go, I think we all know you're not getting a Connor Hellebuyck back for Connor Hellebuyck. So you need to have a guy that has the potential to step up with a greater workload and, be a great partner for another goalie that come in that might at the same time give him much more opportunity to prove his worth and maybe earn a longer term deal at more than the 175 that he got on this one.
Absolutely. I mean, Brossoit is betting on himself that he can do that. That's why it's 1 year. He'll hit free agency. If he's shown in 30 games, he can be a starter. Heck, if something happens, he plays even more than that. Like, good on him, and he's ready to take the next swing. But you notice he's an unrestricted free agent next summer. So if you don't have Hellebuyck on your team, you're almost starting from ground zero in terms of building your goaltending, unless you can bring him back and everybody agrees on that. And that's a tough spot for the Jets to be in. If you're Winnipeg and Hellebuyck has said anything to the effect of, hey, you know what, I could stick around. No, you don't want to sign the 8-year deal. That doesn't make sense. I think there's so much risk in that. But if you could just blue sky it and write the contract that you want for this player, Winnipeg would be thrilled to pay him what he thinks he's worth, I'm sure, for 3 years, for 4 years, for anything kind of in that sort of range, where you have just a little bit more security that he's going to be Hellebuyck-esque. The other thing on that is, if Andrei Vasilevsky is saying that his performance suffered because his body broke down because he played too much, and you can point to, well, okay, Laurent Brossoit outplayed Hellebuyck in the playoffs. I think Hellebuyck played better than memory gives him credit for, to be clear. But you may be able to take some minutes off of him and get an even better performance out of the guy, too, if you've got Brossoit with you.
No, it is a great point. Murat's with us. All right, let's get to your observations of what's been happening. I mean, on the ice is one thing. I mean, listen, I think anyone that's going to drop hot takes over what we're seeing on the ice in development sessions is maybe just looking for cheap clicks. But I think that the real story has been these young men coming in, embracing this team, this organization, this city, the way they've interacted with fans. As I said to Scott, I mean, for a team that's had a lot of conversations about things maybe not being totally great personality-wise with the number of the mix in the hockey club, I don't think fans could be much more excited about the future Winnipeg Jets and how they seem to be clicking and how they seem to be embracing everything that this city and this team is.
Yeah, I mean, you got the buddy comedy duo of Rutger McGroarty and Colby Barlow just holding court. And these guys, yeah, their seasons all, ended at different times whether that's Lucius getting hurt in January or Rutger McGroarty going to the Frozen Four or Brad Lambert's run to the Memorial Cup final. Their off seasons began at different times, their trainings at different times, and camp isn't about putting them in NHL game situations and figuring out how they handle it. It's about them getting to know each other and getting to know Winnipeg as an organization. And the good news, and you're hearing about it everywhere, you saw it yesterday, you've been talking about it, is that these guys are bringing a lot of themselves into Winnipeg as well. They're not just here to get to know Winnipeg. Winnipeg is getting the privilege of getting to know these guys. And Rutger McGroarty is everything that has been advertised in terms of who he is as a human being. He's so engaging and so positive that it ropes people towards him. It brings people in. And I think that it's just an extremely powerful thing when any person at any age who has a huge strength like that, whether they're a great athlete or they're really sociable or they're particularly good at music or a craft or whatever it is, if you can be great and you use your talent to bring people into it as opposed to exclude them. It's not, I'm so cool that, okay, you can't hang with me. With Rutger McGroarty in that dressing room, even yesterday, everybody gravitated towards the guy, and he had time and jokes and energy for everybody who was there. I think that's part of why you hear him talked about as a future captain, why he has been captain of junior teams in his career prior, why the University of Michigan was thrilled with who he was as a freshman player, being a leader on a team with talent from top to bottom. And that's, often a couple years older than him. He stood out as a person there too. And I guess we're getting a real front row seat. Why? And he's not the only guy. Colby Barlow has all the joy about him. Dom DiVincentis has positivity to him. Danny Zhilkin, all of the guys that you've spoken to so far are bringing some of their life into this city and into that dressing room at Canada Life Center, at the Hockey for All Center. And that's good. That is such a tremendous breath of fresh air. And we certainly feel it in the media.
Yeah, and I think everyone would agree that, some teams need that more than others, and I think the Winnipeg Jets would be near the top of that list. And again, they're doing things right now with the main club that I think is trying to get closer to that spot. But, there is a sense. I know Rutger's going to go back to the University of Michigan, and it's a lot to put on a rookie, but, I would love to see the effect that just a exuberant, excited rookie like he has in a locker room like the Winnipeg Jets have right now. And put it this way, it can't come soon enough. The plan right now, I'm sure, is for both of those, young men not to be Winnipeg Jets next season. Obviously, things can change. I think it probably might be more likely that Barlow changes, to be honest, even though he's still very young, mature for his age, I would say. And when you're around them, you realize that this team picked these guys because they were great hockey players, but I think what separated them from the other options at that time was what they bring to the table as people, as personalities. And as I said with Scott, I don't know whether this happens 10 years ago, but I think because of some of the pratfalls of the teams over the last few years, I think they realized that this component of these players is incredibly important in this market, maybe more than many. And they certainly seem to be on the right track. And, if you've just been around there, I saw Rutger in particular, he must have taken pictures. He's dripping sweat coming off the ice, and, he's taken a group of kids, some folks from the North Shell Center, some adults with disabilities, smile on his face. And you can see, there's guys that just do it because they have to, and there's others that do it because I think they get joy out of the joy that they can bring others. And I'll tell you what, it has been a home run for those players, and I think this organization so far this week.
It's the old with great power comes great responsibility thing, right? Like when you have the ability to, brighten people's days like that, and you recognize the value that brings, and you make the choice like Rutger McGroarty has done to bring that version of himself, each and every day in this short camp, but throughout his career to this point, that speaks well of a person. It really, really does. And he's not the only one. Today I saw Thomas Milic, the goaltender who Winnipeg selected this year, WHL goalie of the year, have the exact same attitude and impact. And I think that let's talk about this. Jimmy Roy, development, in charge of development for the Winnipeg Jets. He spoke to media yesterday. I got to sit down with him over a coffee in Nashville, and we were just chatting, and he was talking about how players recognize their own strengths and weaknesses. Because all these guys are under the development banner from the moment that they get drafted to, the moment they become NHL players. And that's his purview. And what he said he's found over the years is that when a guy can be as honest and real with his strengths, with his weaknesses, be open to discuss like all the things that go well and that don't, those sorts of people who, quote unquote, for the lack of a better term, who get it, who can be really three-dimensional and honest and see all of that, have had tremendous success with the Winnipeg Jets. And you could give the example of Josh Morrissey or Adam Lowry, or he talked about how when Kyle Connor was just a superstar in college, he was still being extremely honest in their private interactions and the reports that he would file about what was going well, what wasn't. And they were able to look at themselves in a three-dimensional way that was humble enough for him to believe, well, these guys, whether it's hockey or whether it's life, they're going to find ways to have success. And I think that you're seeing some of those traits, I don't know, being scouted for necessarily, because like you said, it's important they play hockey very well, but it's clearly an important thing as an athlete and as a person. And Winnipeg is certainly picking a lot of guys who meet both sides of it right now.
Right. It's listen, it's fun to talk to those guys. It's fun to be around the fans and see the excitement that many of they had, especially the kids have been around there. And next couple days will be fun. I think they're finishing up with some 3-on-3 scrimmages on Saturday. So if you haven't had a chance to get down, the kids are out of school, highly recommend taking in the development camp. If you've got some kids that want to blow off some steam, run around a rink a little bit and see some guys that are going to hopefully turn into pretty darn good hockey players here in Winnipeg for a long time. I imagine this is giving. Oh, one thing I did want to ask you: did you get a chance to see Swanson at all, the Swedish defenseman? I was there yesterday, and we spent more time with the forwards. But I had a great talk with Jimmy towards the end of the season, and he was raving about him. He said, he's over in Sweden, not a lot of people talking about him, but they are so high on him. Any early just observations on Elias?
Yeah, I mean, he can play. I think that's the ticket. And got a chance to talk to him today as well, too. Obviously he was disappointed that he got hurt and wasn't able to play in the World Juniors because he was playing at a really high level. His Swedish team ended up going deep in the playoffs once he got healthy, and he was able to be a big part of that. That brought him some joy. Plans to go back to Sweden, I think, this year and, take a real run at being an impact player at the World Juniors too. But he was just a real, calm, affable kid as well. And, the organization, like you say, I've heard a lot of people very, very high on this young man. And, he may not make an NHL impact this season necessarily, or it may take a minute into the future. But I think that he's quality as well, and then they're very happy that they got him where they did, and certainly happy with him as a person as well.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to what you have for all of us in the Athletic coming out of development camp, because it's nice to have some good news stories, even it might not be for the immediate future right now, going into next season for the Winnipeg Jets. Have an awesome weekend, pal. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, Huss. Thanks for having me.
There's Murat. Of course, you should be subscribing to The Athletic. Check out all of his work and give him a follow on Twitter as well, at WPG Murat. All right, we've got a big game tomorrow night. The Calgary Stampeders are in town. We're going to be bringing Ed Tait in to tee things up in just a minute. But our friends at Princess Auto getting ready to welcome Bomber fans into the Princess Auto tailgate zone tomorrow for the big game. And, of course, they'll have $3.50 poppin' hot dogs. They'll have $5 beers. And I do believe for Country and Western night in the Stamps, there is a mechanical bull that will be there for fans. I'm not sure if Ed Tait's going to be challenging the bull before the game. We'll ask Eddie in a minute, but get on out there. The party starts at 5:30 before the game, 2 hours beforehand. That is the place to be. And, of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers and Winnipeg Sports Talk. And they've got two locations here in Winnipeg, both Panet Road, Portage Avenue West. And you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. The gang at Consolidated Supply, speaking of Bombers, big Bomber fans, Joe Spicy and the gang, when they're not cheering on the blue and gold, they are the leaders in irrigation systems, artificial turf, or that dream putting green in the backyard, and new and used golf carts is the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba. But they've also got other great options for your property, including hot tubs and incredible outdoor kitchen options, not to mention the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Pop by and see them. The showroom is open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. Speaking of the game tomorrow night, do you have your blue and gold ready to go? If you're looking for a great selection of Bomber merchandise and Jets merchandise as well, going into the upcoming season, you know where to go. Manitoba's #1 sports superstore is Royal Sports, with the biggest and best selection of licensed team gear for the local teams, as well as your favorite teams in the NFL, NHL, and even a few other CFL teams as well, and of course, World Soccer. But with summer here, got to be getting outside. They've got soccer equipment, softball, baseball, disc golf, tennis, and tons of bikes. It really does need to be seen to be believed. Get on down to Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway, and follow them on Instagram because they've always got the latest merchandise drops and sale information at Royal Sports Pembina. And just before we bring in Eddie, tonight, last of the Blue Jays watch parties at Boston Pizza. Last night, great crowd at Henderson, but the damn game got rained out, so they'll play 2 today. They're starting off at 4 p.m., late game at 7, and tonight it is at Birchwood Boston Pizza, so the one in the 2500 block, right by the Moray Bridge on Portage Avenue. Everyone that comes in will get a couple of drinks. They've got some great 50-50 games to slash half your bill and some other great Jays merchandise. And Celine, who joined us a couple days ago on the program, is the hostess with the mostest. So if you want to go check out the Jays tonight, get on down to Birchwood BP. Get there early, reserve your spot, and enjoy what hopefully will be a nice end to this series in Chi-Town with the Sox. All right, let's get ready for tomorrow's game and welcome in Ed Tait from BlueBombers.com. Eddie, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm fantastic. Huss, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to this game tomorrow night. And man, it took a while to get going, which gave us a couple extra hours of Canada Day pre-gaming before the game in Montreal. But what a performance by the Bomber defense. I expected the team to win. I expected them to make a statement after, frankly, a stunning home loss for those of us that have seen them roll over teams in the West every time they play them at home since 2018. But just before we get to tomorrow's game, what did you make of the way the team came back, especially on the defensive side, after a performance that just frankly wasn't up to the incredible standard that they've set for the last number of seasons?
Yeah, it was kind of workmanlike in that, wasn't it? The way they rebounded and got to work and dominated the line of scrimmage, both sides in Montreal. After that long wait, too, it was crazy how long we had to wait to get that game in. And even when the game did resume, it was hot and sticky. And, you're playing in front of enemy territory. So I thought it was pretty impressive. They had some breakdowns on offense, but made some big plays on defense, but they made some big plays to make up for that. And, anytime you win by a couple of touchdowns, no matter the score, that speaks of the dominance. And I thought it was a kind of a return to norm for the Bombers after what you said. That game against BC here was just so uncharacteristic for this bunch. It was kind of a reverting to the norm almost.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, in some ways, it's a long season, and I would never accuse the Bombers with the way that they've played over the last number of seasons of getting cocky or overconfident. But you know what? Every once in a while, you get humbled a little bit, and I think it can make the team better. And certainly they came back. And I'll say this, on paper, you look at the scoreboard, and it doesn't look like a huge game for the offense. But I was actually really impressed with Brady Oliveira. I thought Dalton Schoen had another monster game. Of course, they still without Kenny Lawler. Nick Dembski was becoming a dad, so he wasn't there. But the thing about it was it wasn't like they were always going 2 and out. They had so many long fields. I mean, they were often getting the ball back at the 10, the 15, and they were more than happy with punting the football because they knew that it basically came down to a game of field position, and the way their defense was playing was in complete control. I don't think that despite 17 being a low number for a Bomber offense, that we can look at that performance and say the offense was really off.
No, and let's give Montreal some credit too. Everybody said heading into the season that they were going to be a bit of a tire fire, right? But they got off to a 2-0 start, and a lot of that was built around what they had done defensively. They got a really nasty front six, front seven, and so for the Bombers to be able to control the ball, like you say, Huss, with pounding it with Brady Oliveira and then taking their shots through the air is pretty impressive against that defense. And then some really important plays by Winnipeg's defense too. Cody Fajardo had some big chunk plays, but that interception by Brandon Alexander at the goal line and the 62-yard return was massive in that moment of the game. And, the Willie Jefferson was just dynamic at his best in that game. And I don't think it's any coincidence that it came with Jackson Jeffcoat back at the other end. And, I think we talked to Willie today after the walkthrough practice, and it's funny because a lot of those guys on defense are talking about how much they left on the field in Montreal. And I think some of the offensive guys are saying the same thing. And maybe that's part of what has made this team so successful is they don't start celebrating wins in June or early July. They know there's more work to do. And I think that this bunch still thinks its ceiling is pretty high and they haven't got close to it yet.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And we'll see what they've got for the Calgary Stampeders, who have had an iffy start. I mean, they did lose that game in overtime. It could have been 2-1, but I mean, Jake Mayer's got 2 touchdowns and 5 picks so far. We expect more from the Calgary Stampeders, but certainly from the Bombers as well. I should mention, we touched on this off the, but I mean, all Bomber fans sending out their condolences to Adam Bighill, who, lost his father recently and, made a post about that yesterday. And, that he'll be playing, with a heavy heart, but I think even more motivation to have an incredible game. But then as life is, I mean, on the other side of things, let's just say that there's going to be a few Nick Dembski props placed by yours truly because Baby Swag is undefeated, and Nick Dembski's got to have a pretty big smile on his face right now with the new addition to his young family.
Well, now, Huss, I figure you would have a line of some sort of trends on the games for dads, so newfound dads,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not surprised that you have connections on that, Huss. Listen, Nick Dembski was just beaming yesterday when he met with the media talking about the birth of his daughter. But you're right. As efficient as the offense was last week, they miss a guy like him that can bring so much. And it's interesting that now that he's back, that Greg McCrae, who filled in for him last week, is staying in the lineup. I think that's an important thing. But it's kind of, you touched on Adam Bighill too, Huss. There's, 2 different emotions when you talk about those 2 guys this week, right? Nick Dembski's welcoming in his daughter, his first baby into the world, and then Adam saying goodbye to his dad. It's, you forget sometimes that these guys have lives beyond the locker room and the practice field, and they have to kind of maneuver through all these things, the emotions, the good and the bad, and we'll see what kind of game Nick Dembski has tomorrow. I'm sure you've got some props on that, Huss, but you could maybe make the same case for Adam Bighill having a big game because he's going to do it probably the rest of the year, maybe the rest of his career as a salute to his dad.
Couple roster changes. Kerfella Exume back, and Jarek Bleesman's in for Gauthier, who I believe is on the 6-game list, and Jeremy Murphy. Exume back. He won the Grey Cup with them in 2019, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird story how he's back here, to be honest, Huss. When he was a late draft pick, in that draft, the Bombers got Nick Hallett and Exume in their last 2 picks of that draft in 2019. And man, they made the team and made an immediate impact. And Kerfella had 25 special teams tackles in his first year as a Bomber, and then left after the COVID year. He left for Montreal in free agency because he had a baby. And his family is from Montreal. And, of course, Danny Machocha, the coach, is coached at the University of Montreal. So I think he probably thought he was going to be an Alouette for life. And then last Thursday, he gets the call into the office and told to bring his playbook. And I think everybody, at least in Bomberland here, were surprised that he was let go. And within a matter of hours, his phone was ringing from somebody here in Winnipeg saying, "You want to come back here?" And he jumped at the opportunity. Some other CFL teams are interested in him too. So that's a really good pickup for them and their special teams and their Canadian depth, because he can play a bit of DB too. And then Beeksman's an interesting one too, a Hamilton Tiger Cat draft pick. And I was looking at him today. He looks like he should be in the cast of Vikings. He's just a big, tall, blonde dude that if you put a sword in his hand and wrap some sort of fur around his shoulders, he could be right in one of those episodes, right? So another important addition to their depth, because Shane Gauthier has been put on 6-game injured list. And so those guys are hard to find sometimes, but when you find them of that kind of quality, it's almost like it falls into your lap.
You know, one of the guys that you touched on in the game preview, which I'll tell folks to go check out at bluebombers.com, very in-depth, is Abu Darami Soiree. I just call him ADS. It's a lot easier, but
yes,
he's been everywhere this year. I mean, what an impact he's had early on in the season.
You know, it's weird because we knew that when he was in his first start against BC a couple weeks ago. I mean, BC's going to come after a rookie like that, right? And they did on like the first drive. They had that pass interference penalty against him for about 40 yards that led to BC's first touchdown. And he just lost the ball and kind of ran over the receiver, Alexander Hollins. But he spoke pretty openly as that half went on. He had a lot of teammates come up to him saying, "Flush it, man. I know it's cliche, but flush it and get ready to go." And he had a better second half. And I thought it really led into last week's game, too. He made some key plays in that game in Montreal, including breaking up that pass in the end zone. So there's something there. I think the Bombers are really happy with Evan Holm, Brandon Alexander, and Dietrich Nichols. Demario Houston's had a really good season so far. He's all around the ball. That other spot's just kind of floating out there for someone to grab, right? It might have been Jamal Parker. It might be Winston Rose when he comes back. You know, Desmond Lawrence was there. So when they get healthy again, they're going to have a lot of options in the secondary. And in the meantime, ADS, as you call him, and I might stick with that because it's a mouthful the other way, has really put his stamp on that spot.
Well, you got to get contributions from those young players. I mean, even as this is a veteran team, and you know the star players on this team have continued on. I mean, football more than any leans on so many different individuals, and have young players like that come in and grow game by game and make impacts is a great thing. I guess from Calgary's side of things, obviously a devastating injury to Malik Henry really puts them in a bind, but they are getting Reggie Begelton back, who should be that's a big positive for Jake Mayer and a real challenge for ADS and the rest of the guys in the secondary.
Yeah, man, you know, you look at Calgary's injured list and it's quite substantial. And, you know, Kadeem Carey's out, Peyton Logan, 2 running backs that would probably start for them if they were healthy. You mentioned getting Begelton back, but then they lose Henry. Markin Michel comes back from the NFL, so that's another pickup for their receiving core. But off the top, Huss, too, you were mentioning about Jake Mayer and his stats. He's at that stage now in his career where it's almost like every pass becomes, a referendum on his career, right? People are ready to kick him to the curb, and other people want to give him a second chance. I don't think this might be his 13th or 14th start in the CFL. So I'm going to give the guy a bit more of the benefit of the doubt. Remember a couple years ago, I think it was in his first start, he completed 18 in a row against Winnipeg. So I don't think anybody here is taking this guy for granted or thinking that they're, licking their chops that they're going to eat this guy alive. He's got some weapons. They've got a decent offensive line, a good offensive line, and then their defensive front, just like Montreal's, is going to get after Winnipeg. So it's going to be a test, but it's surprising to see the Stamps at 1-2, even with all the changes they've had. But as you said too, Huss, they lost that game against Saskatchewan in overtime. They could easily be 2-1 right now. And they did give BC a bit of a rough go in the opener. So I don't think anybody around here is taking them lightly.
You going to be jumping on that mechanical bull before the game, Ed?
I'm getting old, Huss. If I fall off that, I'm going to break a hip. So no, I will not be doing that.
Oh, man. Well, listen, looking forward to the game tomorrow night. And as I said, we were talking about Dick Dembski. My pal Dusty is actually going to be coming in and calling the game. We did our lock shop earlier today, and coming up in our Coolbet lines, we do have our partner parlay, which does include a Nick Dembski touchdown. So we'll get to that later on. Hey, listen, thanks so much for doing this, Ed. Enjoy the game tomorrow and have an awesome weekend. We always love having you on the show.
Appreciate it, Huss. Have a good day, man. Thanks.
Good stuff. There's Ed Tait. Check out the full game preview over at bluebombers.com. And we'll talk about it a little bit more with bombing. And I know bombing and Walby are going to be firing it up after we're finished today. So if you want more bomber content today with the big guy and DB, we'll send you guys over to Bonfire with a little raid at the end of the program. So many reasons to look forward to the game tomorrow, including a reminder that our favorite local beer, Little Brown Jug 1919, is now available at the stadium. Check it out at the Poutinery locations and the hometown concessions on both lower and upper levels on both sides of the concourse. If you're looking for Little Brown Jug tomorrow, of course, you can also get it, not just the 1919, but the generic lager as well at the ballpark. And Know What's Golden event with the Folk Fest going on, but they are a big sponsor of the Folk Fest, and that Folk Fest lager will be available at Little Brown Jug this weekend, but also at the Folk Fest if you're heading out there. Again, you can find out more on everything going on at Little Brown Jug on all their social channels, and of course at littlebrownjug.ca. A big shout out to our friends at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. I'm counting down the days to get out there in early August. If you're looking for a world-class fly-in fishing trip where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens is the spot. And as incredible as the world-class fishing is, the hospitality is even better from the Terren family, Pat, Janelle, and the incredible team out at Aikens Lake. Find out more online at aikenslake.com or fire a tweet over at our pal Pitt Terren at Aikens Lake to find more about very limited availability for the rest of the season and already booking corporate and friends and family trips into 2024 over at Aikens Lake. A quick golf report for our friends at Breezy Bend, which is in absolutely mint shape. Of course, we were out there with Kenny and the boys on the holiday Monday, and then he and Scott and the guys were back at it on Tuesday. Jonas Blixt is the leader by 3 shots at the John Deere Classic. Not the biggest names right now in this event. Garrett Sig, Adam Schenk, who was 28-1. We hit that on the lock shop earlier this week. He's there. Adam Hadwin just could not sink a putt. He 3-putted from 3 feet at one point. Not good. But you got to think that that's going to turn around. He's 1 under par right now. Nick Taylor's 2 under through 7. And the other Canadian, Adam Svensson, 2 under in the clubhouse right now. Round 2 gets going tomorrow. Of course, Breezy Bend, a great sponsor of ours, and incredible spot for your long-term home for you and your family on the golf course. Great junior programs, men's and women's leagues and programs, and of course the best 19th hole around and a great social scene. If you're interested in getting on the waiting list for the 2024 season, give our pal Corey Johnson a call over at the clubhouse, or you can find out more online at breezybend.ca. And big shout out to our friends at Assiniboia Downs. I had terrible picks again yesterday, but I am looking forward to getting out there in person next week, taking in nothing like the track on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday night here in Winnipeg. And I think I might have to make it a full night, including that unbelievable prime rib buffet that they've got set up for all the games. If you want to make a reservation, hit them up 885-3330, and you can find out more online at asdowns.com. They're back at it on Monday night. All right, we told you at the start of the show that we've got our Goldeyes night set up. So if you missed it earlier, July 26th, Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. first pitch. It's our Winnipeg Goldeyes night for Winnipeg Sports Talk. Everyone is invited. Would love to see you all out there. We've got a great deal on tickets, $15 all in, and that includes a Winnipeg Sports Talk koozie. You can maybe stick one of those generic or 1919s in it when we have a few at the game. What you need to do is go to winnipegsportstalk.com, click on store. Remis has got a very simple link there. Order however many tickets you want. We'll all be together on the left field line near Craft Beer Corner. And we'll also have a Goldeyes prize pack to give away. Put together some Winnipeg Sports Talk prizes as well. But great deal on tickets. $15 includes a Winnipeg Sports Talk koozie. And we've also got a deal right now. Remo, what is it again? If you're buying a ticket and you'd like to add any of the Winnipeg Sports Talk merchandise, use the promo code FISH. We'll give you 20% off, and we'll bring it for you that night, and you can pick it up in person at the Goldeyes game on the 26th. Did I cover that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Perfect. So anyways, make a note and get on out there, winnipegsports.com store. Get your tickets. And man, this is good. We've talked about this for a long time, Reem. I cannot wait to see everyone and get back out to the ballpark.
Yeah, I think we wanted to do this like for 2 years. We finally made it happen here with the Goldeyes, and we have it on our website. So buy the tickets. We'll send you your tickets, closer to the event. But you've already sold a couple of these, as I put the link out in the chat, and I imagine some podcast listeners will get in once they hear this. But shout out to Phyllis, Bobby B, and Hockey Mom, who've all got tickets already.
Beautiful. Well, as I say, I mean, if you want to do it right now, great. If you want to talk to some friends and family and see who wants to come out, obviously we've did a couple events in bars, so this is more one. Or if you want to bring your kids, I mean, everyone's welcome. It's going to be a real fun night. And if you weren't able to get to a couple of the sports trivia nights we've been, great chance to come out, enjoy the game, but also meet many of your friends in person from the Winnipeg Sports Talk chat. And podcast listeners, we'd love to see you as well. So get on over to winnipegsportstalk.com store, click it, get your tickets, and we'll get you the koozies at the game. And we'll also have some great prizes to give away as well. Again, Wednesday, July 26th. Speaking of the Goldeyes, they're back. It's been a struggle as of late. But we're just getting, next game will be the 50-game mark, which is the halfway point to the season. Let's just say our Fish have some work to do to get back into it. Let's get the latest on it and tee up this 9-game homestand beginning on Friday with our good pal, the general manager, Andrew Collier. Andrew, what's going on? How are you?
Hey, good to see you. Going well.
Good to see you as well. Time for some home cooking to turn this thing around. Been a bit of a struggle lately for the squad, but still lots of baseball left to play coming up to the midway point of the season. And certainly the team has had more success at home. A good time to get back to Shaw Park.
For sure, yeah. Last time we were home, we won the last 2 and went on the road and won 3 more. So we were on a 5-game heater and then faced a really tough Kansas City squad and Sioux City, and probably could have won all 6 of those games, but we didn't. So there you go.
Finding ways to lose. Now it's time to find ways to win. But obviously, I mean, just for the fan base and the squad, it'll be great to get back because July, a very, very big month as we get into this beautiful prime time of the Winnipeg summer.
Yeah, for sure. We got some fun games coming up and other events.
Well, exactly. Listen, things get going. I guess, what is this, a 9-game homestand getting going on the weekend? So basically through the next 2 weekends?
Yeah, so this weekend, 3 against Milwaukee. Monday's our golf tournament out at Breezy Bend, and then 6 in a row against Cleburne.
Well, we'll look forward to getting out there. A bunch of things happening on this homestand, and obviously we've got an exciting little bit of information for WST listeners for later on in the month. But next Wednesday, shaping up to be a very special night. Retro night. 1994 replica jerseys and hats. Fanny pack giveaway. Fireworks. This is one of the games of the season. All those are sweet.
I got the provincial patch there. Got the 30th anniversary patch. And the hats are awesome.
Love them. Shades of the old Winnipeg Stadium era, Andrew.
Yeah, it kind of makes me shudder thinking about playing at Winnipeg Stadium, but we had some good times there too.
That fanny pack giveaway, fireworks, and that's our friends at Princess Auto, big Princess Auto night as well, huh?
Yeah, Princess Auto, great partners of ours and yours, and yeah, always good to have a big night when you have a big sponsor out like that.
Well, we should also, I mean, listen, obviously we need to hope we're pulling for a turnaround right now and get on a bit of a run of wins, but there's been some great individual performances so far, and 3 Goldeyes will be representing the squad out at the All-Star game shortly.
Yeah, for sure. Just this last week, Travis Seabrook, pitcher of the week, pitched 2 really good games when we really needed him to. And Max Murphy, Dason Cruz, and Samuel Adamas all voted into or selected to the All-Star game. Unfortunately, Max Murphy is not going to go. He's going to take those 3 days for rest. As everybody knows, he broke his leg last year in the playoffs, and that leg could use some rest. Even with I would say 80% on that leg. He's second in the league in home runs and third in RBIs. So he's still putting up numbers.
I just actually wanted to bring that up for a minute. I mean, obviously I've been out to a bunch of games and, I've seen Max do his thing. And, that was a gruesome injury on the final game of the season, like the least possible recovery time for him. And, what a pro. The guy's back doing what he does best, and that's knock that thing out of the park.
The fact that he's playing right field almost every day, once in a while he's DHing, but just the description of what they had to do to his leg is it is pretty gruesome. But he battled all winter getting ready for this year. Just some issues with the knee where the rod goes into his leg is getting a little tired, so he's going to take those 3 days off for the All-Star break and make sure he's really strong for the second half.
Now, you mentioned some other events coming up, but we should let people know, circle August 11th on their calendar. Huge day for the franchise, welcoming Reggie Abercrombie, our all-time favorite here on the program, into a very select group of Goldeyes history and retired players. That's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to being part of the event before the game in the afternoon. But Andrew, July 22nd, we've touched on this a little bit before, but if people haven't heard about the Ballpark Brewfest, maybe remind them and how they can get their tickets, because that is going to be a heck of a day on July 22nd.
Yeah, Ballpark Brewfest, second annual, Saturday, July 22nd from 1 till 5 p.m. 24 different brewers will be here, all Manitoba brewers, 2 bands. Your ticket includes a food item, hot dog, hamburger, piece of little Pizza Heaven pizza. It's just going to be an awesome day. The easiest place to get tickets, just go to our website. There's a banner there. Click on that. Get your tickets. $60. Gets you sampling for 4 hours, gets you a little sample mug to take around to do the sampling and that food item. So it was a great day last year and looking even better this year.
Don't drive there, folks. Trust me on that one. Uber's Uber mandatory.
We do sell designated driver tickets as well, so free pop or water for the DD in your group.
Well, that's a smart move. So the Brewfest at the Ballpark is July 22nd, and having you on, it's a perfect time. We've been waiting to plan our first Winnipeg Sports Talk night, and very looking forward to getting the crew and hopefully plenty of our listeners and viewers to join us out at the Ballpark, and maybe a few innings at Craft Beer Corner as well, out on July 26th. It's a Wednesday night, and folks, you're going to be able to go to the winnipegsportstalk.com website and buy your tickets there. Remis has done a great job of setting it up. $15 tickets. It includes a Winnipeg Sports Talk koozie for all that great local beer, and the generic and 1919s will be enjoying at the game. And we're also going to have a Goldeyes prize pack that we'll raffle off amongst all the WST listeners that buy through the show. And we've had some great outings so far, Andrew. A couple sports trivia nights, but it's been a long time coming. I cannot wait to get together with the Winnipeg Sports Talk crew once again and do it at the Ballpark for what should be a great summer evening.
It'll be a great night. I think I told you before, last year, throughout the season, people would come up to me and say, "Hey, I heard you talking about the game tonight. That's why I'm here. I heard you talking about it on Winnipeg Sports Talk." So it'll be great to see a bunch of them all together.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Again, ticket, koozie, entry into the Goldeyes prize pack, $15 a ticket. Go to winnipegsportstalk.com. We'll have 2 weeks to sell those out, so find your friends, whoever wants to come, and really looking forward to that. But that's a little ways away. Let's get on a heater. Start it off with some wins on the weekend, Andrew. And hey, you know what? Win or lose, the food's amazing, the beer's cold, but it's always better when the home team's winning. And hopefully we can get the second half started off with a bang on a big, big homestand beginning this weekend.
For sure. We need that. Back to the August 11th. If anybody's interested in going to the luncheon, contact Dan Chase in our office, dan@goldeyes.com. We're selling tables, selling tickets. Should be a great event with yourself. Brody Jackson and Ace Burpee will also be there. So it'll be a fun luncheon. The Goldeyes players will be there. Reggie will be there. So it should be a lot of fun.
I've talked to a lot of individuals and athletes over my years here in Winnipeg doing this in various different spots. Reggie is amongst a very unique and small pantheon of all-time greats. I cannot wait to see him. No one more deserving than to have his number retired by the Goldeyes, and what a day that is going to be. So get to goldeyes.com or get in touch with Dan if you want to be a part of the luncheon. I'm looking forward to being a part of that, and obviously the big game that night. Andrew, we'll see you at the ballpark this weekend. Good luck to getting this thing going in the right direction.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
All right, good stuff from the Cash Man. Get on out to the ballpark beginning on Friday for a 9-game homestand. And again, July 22nd, WST Group Night at the ballpark, winnipegsportstalk.com/store. Shout out to everyone that's already gotten tickets today. A great early response just after mentioning it. And special shout out to Bobby B. Incredible supporter of ours, has gotten a ton of merch in the past, and Bobby B took advantage of that 25% discount on the merch as well. Bobby, thank you so much for the support. And yeah, if you were thinking about getting a hat or something like that, perfect time to do it. Use the promo code FISH when you do your checkout along with your ticket. All right, let's get to the Coolbet lines. As I mentioned, tough one last night. I was doing my daily pick. I was all ready for a big Jays win, Bo Bichette to get 1.5 total bases, and it got rained out. But again, watch party tonight for those of you on the west side. If you want to get out there, they've got great prizes, couple free drinks. BP Birchwood for that one. And my guy Kikuchi on the hill for game 2 tonight, which should be happening a little bit after 7 o'clock. Game 1 of the doubleheader to make up for yesterday is going to go at 4 p.m. Early game, Jays -120 and the White Sox +107. Still waiting for a line on game number 2. White Sox haven't declared their starter as of yet. As far as the CFL goes, we did our full lock shot picks today with Dustin Nielsen, who is doing the game tonight in Regina. He'll be here tomorrow in Winnipeg calling the game on TSN. Here are the lines. Riders are 7-point favorites tonight against the Elks. The Bombers are 8-point favorites at home against Calgary tomorrow. Hamilton, 2.5-point favorites at home against the Ottawa Red Blacks. Masoli's back. Love Ottawa in that game. And then the Sunday night game is the BC Lions and the Montreal Alouettes. BC is 7-point favorites in that game. But we do have our lock shot partner parlay together. And as I said with Ed Tait, I'm all over the baby swag narrative for Nick Dembski. Dusty thought that game might be a little closer. 8 points is a lot to lay. So this is the parlay we've got. Red Blacks +2.5. BC Lions -6.5. And Nick Dembski anytime touchdown +520. That's in the lock shot partner parlay. And of course, if you want to play over at Coolbet, you can use the promo code WST on your first deposit. Give you a 100% bonus up to $200. Bunch of other things that you can bet on right now. Wimbledon, men and women. Shout out to Chapo, who had a big win today. Milos Raonic won his first match. He's on the court right now, I believe, against Tommy Paul. Tough one for our girl Layla. She lost in the third set tiebreaker, so she's out. Bianca's still alive as well. So good stuff so far for our Canadians. And I don't know. This is a little bit more like the wide world of wagering, which I do on occasion during this summer when there's not a lot of our regular sports to bet on. but the Calgary Stampede Rodeo is up there as well. If anyone has any insight into saddle bronc riding, bareback riding, steer wrestling, I am all ears. I would love to get a few tips. And the Rangeland Derby is going up this weekend, and that, of course, is the Chuck Reagan racing. We went through the amazing names of these cowboys on the lake on the Lock Shop today. So subscribe to the Lock Shop wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and do us a favor, hit us a sub over at the YouTube channel as well, Lock Shop Bets. And that's where all our content is as well. In Canada, when's this Canada game against the U.S.? The 9th. That is, I guess, what, Sunday? Yeah, so Sunday at 6:30, USA, Canada. Canada, massive underdog in that one, plus 400, draw plus 285. Canada, without Alfonso Davies and Jonathan David, some of our top players will be tough. But as I said, that's why they play the games. Now down to the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Gold Cup. All right, Remo, get back in here. One of the things that I was mentioning to you was that, we'll put up a post for our Goldeye game event on Instagram and on Twitter. Although has Twitter been canceled? I'll be honest, I was quite annoyed yesterday checking my feed, and every second tweet was about threads over Instagram. Like, I know people are pissed off at Twitter, but all of a sudden we're back completely down with Zuck and Facebook and all that. Is that where the way things are going?
100%. Yeah. Twitter's done. It's canceled. It's over. Instagram yesterday announced Threads is their Twitter competitor. They launched it. The app is out. Get it. Just links with it's great because it links with your Instagram account and automatically follows everyone you already follow on Instagram. I didn't even have to do anything. So Winnipeg Sports Talk is on there. We're threading. We got over 500 followers already. I don't know what it is. I don't know what content I'm supposed to post, but it's new. It doesn't have Elon Musk on it, so I am in on Threads. Now, there are some complaints about Threads, like you can't actually see a feed of people you follow, so it shows you it's all about the algorithm. And you can't filter by date, so like if it's like during a game, you can't just see the latest stuff. I'm sure they're going to update it. It is very new. It does not have Elon Musk. So we're moving on, Huss. We're taking a chance here. This could be it. This could be our way to break free of Elon Musk's hold on Twitter. We don't want him anymore. Anything. This is like when Homer joined the Stonecutters, then everyone just started their other tribe, their other cult. This is like what it is. So we're trying to get away from Elon Musk. We're going over. I don't care if it's Mark Zuckerberg and whatever stuff that he's done that's really bad. So we're going with Threads. We're on there. You got to sign up. I told you, you got to sign up. You got to be early adopter on Threads. Why haven't you signed up for the brand?
Allow my cynicism to break through here for a moment. You know how many times I've seen people with their, I guess this is probably my last tweet. That's it. It was a good run, Twitter. This has happened like every 2 weeks for the last 6 months.
This is the real one.
This is it. Okay, this is it. Hey.
There's been the barrier to entry is low. You just one click, it sets up your account for you. I'm in. I believe it. I've seen some of the other alternatives. They sucked. This one is kind of decent.
Well, listen,
I'll take kind of decent.
I will. I mean, I guess I will. But
it's for work, Huss. What are you? You don't care about Winnipeg sports talk? You don't care?
I highly doubt that this is going to be like everything that we knew on Twitter is just going to shift over to
Get
Threads.
in there. Get in there now. Frank Saravalli is breaking all the trades on there. The Moose announced they signed Jimmy Oligny on there yesterday. You didn't see that anywhere. That's exclusive to Threads.
Exclusive to Threads?
So you got to put exclusive stuff. I put exclusive stuff. And then if you get it now, nobody else is on there. So your stuff now is going to get shown to other people. There's a lot of advantages of being there early. You're going to get there like in a month. Everyone's going to be on there, and your stuff's not going to get shown to anyone.
I hate the fact that you just told me that you don't get the feed of the people you follow. It's just the algorithm.
The algorithm knows you better than you do. That's what algorithms are these days. Okay? You know what the number one social media is now? It's TikTok, okay? And we know why TikTok is great because it shows you what you want to see. It's not about how many followers you have.
Listen, as far as I can tell, Instagram, which is what this is coming from, I mean, it's basically 80% Instagram models. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know what, when it goes and, so I don't want to pull the curtain back, but when I start getting all the threads from everyone that I follow on Instagram,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that algorithm's going to be showing me on threads, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well-
And as far as TikTok goes, it's basically the same thing. It's babes and ridiculous stunts and people lip syncing. It's basically just a time wasting spot.
No, you're following the wrong people on TikTok. You're not following that guy who sees a sports highlight in a movie and does an investigative report of which game that was from which date in the 1990s. You haven't seen that guy on TikTok? You haven't seen that chef who makes fun of other people's shitty cooking videos on TikTok?
You told me about that
Chef
guy.
Reactions. That guy got an agency deal. Come on.
Listen,
And
as
hey,
long as...
I was going to say, Doug Phil said it best, Huss. Do you want to be an influencer or not? Like, we're on Winnipeg Sports Talk, okay? We're doing this. This is just me and you. We need to get on Threads, and I need you to be all in.
All right. As Gitch just said, all hail the algorithm. We'll see. Yes, T. Will. I'm asking myself the exact same question. We will see. Bailey, will you guys be down at the Hockey All for Center tomorrow? I think I will be down at the Hockey for All Center tomorrow. And I am looking forward to Saturday because I think there's going to be a little bit of game action tonight. So, or on Saturday.
You're going to live thread the...
Live thread it. Yeah.
Live thread the scrimmage? You're going to tweet play-by-play? Or thread play-by-play?
Waiters, you could be right. You could be right.
Yeah, if that's true, we wouldn't be able to be on YouTube. So nice try.
All right, listen, let's get things over to Bonfire. Walby and Bombing are getting it fired up. Very quickly, though, Remo, have you done the puck doku yet today?
Yeah, we need to tell people this. I am so obsessed. So first there was Immaculate Grid.
Which is great. It's harder.
It's just baseball, and I cleared today's. So if you don't know what this is, these are these new trivia games where you have a grid. So you have to fill in the blank. So you have to find a player who played for Tampa and Houston, Tampa and the Dodgers, and a Tampa player 200K season. And then, you got Houston, Tampa, Houston, Philly. So I actually cleared this one today. I was impressed with myself.
I think I can do this one.
So you want to show them how it's done on this one?
You got 9 for 9?
I got 9 for 9. I was fired up.
I like it.
But so they had the baseball one. I was like, hey, baseball's good, but like, we need a hockey one of these, right?
Yes, fire up the hockey one.
So here's the hockey one. The hockey one is called Puck Doku.
Have you done it yet today?
Yeah, I did it this morning. I had some good ones. I want to save them for the show and do it live, but I'm just so thirsty. Did you get 9 out of 9? Yeah, I got 9 out of 9 on this one.
Maybe we'll do some sort of a stream sometime where
I can't save them. I just get so thirsty to do these. And
there you go. So yeah, if you haven't already, try it. I'll tweet later out. I haven't done this yet, but I will be doing it shortly. And I think I got 9 out of 9 in me.
Yeah. Okay. You got a couple in you right now? You got a couple. Who's the Calder Trophy winner for Buffalo? I see the chat's got. I see the chat's doing it. Is that Tom Barrasso? Was he Calder?
Well, let's see.
Oh, 12% said Barrasso. That's well done.
Boom. There you go. So we'll get through that. You know what? Maybe I'll do this while watching and listening to Bombing and Walby. Great show today, folks. Thank you all for joining us. And again, tomorrow, we'll maybe have a little bit more fun. I'll do a puck doku while we get marbles set up tomorrow. Weaver's going to jump on with us tomorrow, Bombing as well. Big game tomorrow, getting ready for it. But thanks to everyone for hanging with us today. Stick around. Blue Bomber pregame, game day for Bombing and Walby coming up next. Stick around. We'll send you right over there. Might see you folks tomorrow morning at the Hockey for All Center for a little training camp, but we'll definitely see you tomorrow, 1 o'clock, right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Marbles, Bomber game day, finishing up Jets development camp. Should be a great show. Don't miss it. Have a great night, and we'll send you over to Bonfire Sports right now.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.